Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Welcome everyone to our electronic virtual meeting of September 8th, 2020. This meeting is being conducted by means of electronic participation by a majority of council members as permitted by section 238, 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, as there is presently an emergency declared to exist in the town of Mono, that being COVID-19 pandemic. Council chambers will not be open to the public. However, this meeting can be viewed live starting at 7 p.m. on September 8, 2020 at the Mono Civic website portal. And I want to confirm that all members of council are present and call meeting to order. Public notification of proceedings is being video recorded and broadcast. If any member of council has a pecuniary interest, you can declare it now or at any time throughout the meeting, and also give a report to the clerk in writing. So this time I'd like to ask for approval of the agenda. We do have 2 items to add. Under new business, item 7 is the water tower lease agreement that was circulated by Mark earlier today. And also that we are going to be going in camera to have advice regarding matter of litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals and bylaw enforcement. So with that in mind, I need a motion that council approves the agenda of session VC11-2020 as amended. Moved by Martin and seconded by Nix, sorry. And are there any questions, comments, further additions? Seeing none, then I'll call for anybody who is not in favor. Seeing none, then that motion is carried. And our next motion is that council approves the minutes of session VC10-2020 as circulated. Could I have a mover? Moved by Magtalo and seconded by Nix. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll ask if anyone is not in favor. Hearing nothing and seeing nothing, we will carry that motion. We now are at public question period. Mr. Simpson, is there any questions that were received from the public? Lost Fred.
Turn your
He's
mic
gone.
on.
He's gone.
From my screen, he's gone.
He's gone from mine too.
I see
I'll
nothing.
vote.
Your worship, there was one question. I don't know if there's any more. I can just check my emails for it.
Okay. Oh, there's Fred now.
Fred Simpson has lost his internet connection.
Well, he's signed back in now, so we'll just
Coming back in, yeah, okay.
Yes, I got back in.
You're back in?
Your worship,
Yes,
I have the one question if you want me to read it.
sure.
It is from Mark Fitzpatrick, and it says, will Mono Township reconsider the use of towers to deliver high-speed internet services such as fixed wireless to residents and businesses? In 2018, a proposal from ExploreNet was rejected due to perception that towers were undesirable. Wired infrastructure is expensive and will be a long time coming. During COVID, available speeds are decreasing due to Wi-Fi usage. That's the only question I'm aware of.
Okay,
Oh, there it is.
and there it is. So I guess my suggestion would be if our deputy mayor would like to field a response with the work that you've been doing on the task force, John, would that be suitable?
I'm happy to try and address it. I wasn't on council when the ExploreNet proposal was found unacceptable. However, subsequent to that, in the intervening time, we've developed the technology of bouncing from one small tower to another from a structure such as the water tower. And that might be more efficient in the long run than the erection of extraordinarily large towers that have been controversial in the past. So I think we are going to get eventually the town of Mono well covered by a variety of providers without having to resort to the extremely tall towers that have been the magnet of local opposition. So I think help is on the way, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Okay. So would you be able to work with Mr. Simpson then in developing a response to Mark Fitzpatrick's question on behalf of council then?
I'm happy to, and also be mindful of the existing towers. Mono has always encouraged co-location, which is to say that simply because Bell puts up the tower doesn't mean that other providers can't have access to it. It's something that we've encouraged for over 20 years, and I think we should continue to encourage. And one local provider has told me that there's an 8 or 9 month waiting period to find out whether they can actually co-locate on a major provider's tower. And I think we can do a lot to try and shorten that time frame.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So Fred Simpson, if there's nothing further in questions from the public then that you're aware of?
That was the only question that we had received in advance, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a delegation scheduled to start at 7:15. What's the wish of council? Would you like to wait until that appointed time, or would you like to go ahead with the presentation from the NVCA?
I think they're both here with us, Laura. We could probably start now if it's okay with them.
Okay, everybody on council is fine with that? Yes, we're good. Okay, so we are welcoming Doug Hevenor and Keith White to speak to us regarding a strategic plan from the NVCA. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. I don't know why my video is not popping up here, but it's you can hear me all right?
Yes, you're coming in loud and clear.
How are we doing this presentation? Are you presenting the slides on your screen there, or what? Oh, like.
Fred Simpson, you had talked about.
Yeah, we have a PDF copy. I don't have a PowerPoint. If you're not able to share your screen due to camera or other issues, we can put it up and you can just ask us to advance page by page.
Yeah, that's fine. If you put the PDF up, I can do that. That works very easily.
Okay, you just bear with us for a second. We'll pop that up.
Okay, as I said, it's our pleasure to be here tonight. I'm here tonight with our chair, Keith White, counselor, longtime counselor from Essa Township. And I'm going to be taking you through our 2020 to 2025 strategic plan. I'd like to move into slide 2, if I may. The next slide. We went through a process for a 2-year period, developing a 20-year horizon for an integrated watershed management plan. And that integrated watershed management plan formed the seminal document that led us into our strategic plan. Our strategic plan has a 5-year horizon, And it was just accepted by our board of directors recently. And we're now just putting the finishing pieces on a business plan document that we will present in September to our board for their first review and consultation, and we'll work our way through that. That's based on a 5-year horizon as well, in incremental 1-year pieces. We could proceed to the next slide, please. Just a little shot here of the Nottawasaga. The Nottawasaga Valley is, you see in the green in the center of our slide, and how it fits into the Great Lakes. It's about 3,700 square kilometers in size. We consist of a very diverse watershed. We have a mix of growing cities and small towns, many rural communities, and we're very productive with agricultural land throughout our watershed. It's also the home to a variety of many natural landscapes, and it's abundant recreational trails, and it's got great natural features. Some of those you're well aware of, sitting nested down there on the Oak Ridges Moraine. We connect to the north through the Niagara Escarpment, and tying into the Minising Wetlands and the Oro Moraine. If you can move into the next slide, please. Here I have a little blow up, and it gives you an idea of what the Nottawasaga actually provides for us. It's a riverine system. It's a big bowl basically bordered on the side by the Niagara Escarpment and the Oro Moraine on the south, or the east side, and the Oak Ridges Moraine at the bottom. Our river system has many tributaries that fall down into the watershed. The Nottawasaga River runs from the south end of the system through to Georgian Bay, to the shores of Wasaga Beach and Collingwood. An interesting part about this is that the great watershed management that's been accomplished over the years through the direction of Fred Dobbs, our fish wildlife biologist, we're very happy and very proud to be able to provide a watershed that allows Chinook salmon to swim 35 kilometers up the river. It's a great salmonoid river, brown trout, brook trout. It's got resident rainbow trout in it. And it connects into the Minising Wetlands, which is one of the largest suppliers of freshwater sturgeon in the area. So we're blessed with a tremendous resource here, and we're happy to be the stewards of that resource. If you can move to the next slide, please. Here it's just a shot of a typical type of watershed system, sort of pseudo-like ours, although it's not directly north-south. It goes from a city system, which we have on our east side, Barrie, and rolls across through that bowl and heads up over. The interesting part about the integrated watershed management process is you've got to manage the human activities with the natural resources on a watershed basis, and that's taking into account the social, economic, and environmental issues, as well as the community interests that naturally sustain that watershed. In 2019 is when we went through that integrated watershed plan, and I'm really happy to report that we had a very fulsome stakeholder engagement process. We engaged with over 300 stakeholders. We had representatives from all 18 municipalities, either at the municipal level or at the community level. We had planners, developers, we had NVCA representatives from the ministry, we had MNR&F from the ministry. It was very well attended. We had our adjacent watershed conservation authority participate as well, Lake Simcoe and to the east, and we had the Grey Sawbo participate from the west side of the watershed as well. So going to the next slide, please. Here we talk about the 3 core activities in the watershed planning, and these really drive our strategic plan. That's our honoring of the environment through looking after water quality, identifying biodiversity, dealing with pollutants, aquatic water habitats, the geology and the climate changes that we're facing right now. Those all fit into our environment. But we have to manage that with a very wholesome and healthy economy, including manufacturing, that diverse agricultural segment that we have in our area, the hydropower that we're generating right now, transportation corridors that we drive from the southern regions, from the GTA into our system, as well as forestry and tourism. And then we have to also augment that with society aspects, clean drinking water, flood risk, recreation for people. We saw this during the initiates of COVID, where the GTA was just overwhelming areas to the north to get out of the city spaces and into those green spaces to recreate. We have to deal with waste management and, of course, land use, which the province has identified as one of the core issues that they'd like conservation authorities to deal with in the future. That three-pronged approach is what we use to drive our plan. If you could go to the next slide, please. While the strategic plan addresses the importance of protecting human life from property from natural hazards, we remain grounded to our roots and founding principles to safeguard and enhance the water quality in natural places, provide education and engagement for residents that want to connect with people and nature. Our plan will emphasize the collaboration and partnerships and allows for the resilience in the face of political, legislative, and climate change. I think we're all aware of the awaiting regulation changes that we'll see come our way. We had a very, very active involvement with the MECP and MNRNF, and many of you had opportunities to participate and engage in some really great discussions. We're awaiting those regulation changes and the identification of what the government has identified as core resources. It'll involve opportunities for us to interact with your council in the future to develop good working relationships and expanding on existing memorandums of understanding. Those memorandums of understanding will probably change from just the strategic planning process or the planning strategies that we have in place right now to incorporate some of the peripheral activities that conservation authorities do. We're really proud of the 15,000 children we educate each year here at the Nottawasaga through Simcoe County, and we want to continue that. We have a very strong forest management program, and you can't pick up a paper today across Canada that doesn't tout and promote the effect of tree planting and enhancing the protection of the water quality by cooling the temperature of the water. I think it's vitally important that we continue to provide these activities, as well as the land-based activities through our conservation authorities. I think we need that opportunity, and our plan will work to try to provide those things. I can move on to the next slide, please. We didn't really change up for this particular portion our vision or our plan. We feel that the strategic plan follows the vision of our integrated watershed management plan. We want to be a sustainable watershed that is resilient to the effects of climate change, urban growth, and the stressors, provides safe growth, healthy and prosperous for people and communities. I think without that, we fail. And in order to accomplish that, we need to stick hard to our mission of working together. And it's working with councils like yours to deliver innovative and integrated watershed management that is responsive to the environment, economy, and social sustainability of the entire watershed. I think that's absolutely vital. If we can move on, please. We do have some core values that I really like to bring to your attention tonight. What we value is an abundance of clean water, clean air, fertile soils that provide healthy people and ecosystems. The natural heritage systems and ecosystem services they provide, particularly as they support resilience in the effects of changing climate. We support distinctive landforms and waterways, including Georgian Bay, the Niagara Escarpment, the Minising Wetlands, and others that give our watershed a unique sense of quality and place. We provide quality recreation opportunities that our hills, forests, and meadows and wetlands, waterways, and coastline provide for residents and tourists alike. A wealth of resources within the capacity of our watershed to provide striving communities, successful economies, sustainable agriculture, now and in the future. If we can move on to the next slide, please. I'd like to get into the plan itself. It's basically want to show you a series of 8 slides, begin with this first slide. Our first opportunity, our goal that we wish to do here is enhance business excellence through governance, technology, creating a well-managed organization that provides transparency and efficient operations. The goal here is to provide effective communication with our partners, residents, stakeholders that enhances transparency on decisions and actions which benefit the watershed, ensuring NVCA programs and services are maintained within the watershed. Next slide, please. We're going to accomplish this by attending to these priorities. We want to develop new business models that increase organizational resilience, predictable funding, and opportunities and capacity. I think funding is going to be a very big issue for the NVCA as we proceed forward. COVID has provided us with some real challenges. We're predicting that we'll probably be about $100,000 in the negative this year. We've had to do staff layoffs, and we've faced a collective need to rationalize our operational costs, try to reduce our capital costs. And we've been, I think, quite diligent in informing our board members of that as we've moved through this. We want to continue to work with non-governmental organizations, educational institutions, and private sector to better understand and address watershed issues. I want to hit here on the education piece. We're meeting right now with Simcoe County School Board to try to develop strategies for outdoor classrooms. If we go back to the First and Second World War, we can see the tremendous resilience that students received from outdoor classrooms at that time. And it's something that we may face today. I was just reading today about 32 kids in a small 1957 sized classroom with less than 1 meter between them, taking classes for 5 hours at a time. I think that we can be an effective participant and partner to our educational aspects if we work well. We want to effectively communicate with partners in all sectors and make them aware of the changing climate and how it may affect our watershed. We want to operate a sustainable, well-managed service and science-driven organization fueled and engaged by employees and technology. We want to be the people that you turn to for our expertise, and we want to work with you in a strong, strong partnership to understand how we can improve things for the citizens and constituents that we all work and strive to support. We want to enhance those partnerships across the federal and provincial government and municipal jurisdictions. Municipalities have really carried the ball for conservation authorities since the Harper government, when there was a severe cut to funding. Right now, you factor in at 49 to 50% of funding in most conservation authorities across the province of Ontario. And without you, we would fail miserably. I think the service that we provide for you are very good cash value for the dollar input. And we hope that we can find better ways to deliver the opportunities that we can provide for you. We want to reduce our carbon corporate footprint. We want to develop a business culture for conservation using best practices. And I think that network of 36 conservation authorities nested in the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks provides a tremendous opportunity to develop best practices that we can involve and get our partners involved with. We want to invest in new technologies and new innovative tools to improve workflows and access information for our partners and residents and stakeholders. And we're accomplishing this by partnering with programs at the federal government to develop flood water planning and to do watershed evaluation so we can understand how climate change may act within our jurisdiction. Can I have the next slide, please? We want to promote resiliency and capacity in the face of dynamic conditions within the watershed. Here, the goal is to encourage all watershed stakeholders to work collaboratively to attain sustainable, healthy, resilient watershed that benefits communities, economies, natural resource industries, and the environment. You're hearing the word partnership, you're hearing the word collaborative, you're hearing the words from me, work together. We want to work together. We want to be your voice for the environment. We want to partner with you. We want to hear your voice. We've been appreciative of the great work that Fred has done over the years with the NVCA, and we welcome Ralph's participation in engaging questions that he brings to our board meetings. And without that, we're going to fail. So I'm reaching out to not only those members, but to all the members of your council to pick up the phone if a constituent has an issue with us and give us a call and let us try to help and rectify situations within your own localized watershed. That's vitally important to us. Next slide, please. Priorities here again, you're seeing these same sorts of things play out again. It's partnerships, it's support from municipalities, it's support from member municipalities and how we manage our wetlands and we deal with legislation. When this new legislation and regulations piece drops, we're gonna have to all roll up our sleeves and work together to try and find solutions on how we can protect the environment and how we can provide cost-effective delivery of services to your municipality and our other 17 member municipalities. We want to look at engaging and supporting strategic land acquisitions to increase land capacity and connectivity. If you look at Halton to the south, when the quarry closes and that quarry becomes a naturalized feature, they'll have a green necklace that will run from the north end to the south end of their watershed. Ideally, we would like to provide for the many municipalities in our watershed and a lot of the participants outside of our watershed that come to recreate in that same system. So we're looking at connectivity between conservation authorities right from the Oak Ridges Moraine over to Barrie, up the escarpment and down into the valley and running right up to Wasaga Beach, the Blue Mountains and Collingwood. So we'll need to do that with the support of municipalities, and we'll probably be able to do that through implementing a lot of the provincial legislation. We work very hard in the drinking water legislation. We don't want to see another Walkerton happen in Ontario. And I'm very, very proud of the work that Ryan has done and continues to do in safe drinking water management for the NVCA. Next slide, please. Here we want to inspire conservation through outdoor experiences and education. Our goal here is to foster awareness, appreciation for the natural resources and the features through outdoor experiences and opportunities in education. Could I have the next slide, please? These recreational activities are going to be able to use NVCA conservation lands and programs that will be responsive, again, to climate change and to the growing needs and diverse needs of education. As I mentioned earlier, we've provided education both at our Tiffin site and throughout our watershed, more specifically within the Barrie school systems and Simcoe County school systems to the tune of 15,000 students annually. I think that's a remarkable amount. We've engaged a tremendous number of qualified university-trained teachers within our program. We're blessed to have 2 former school principals involved in our educational program that have worked really hard to help us improve our curriculum delivery and understand how we can better suit the needs of our students that attend. But again, COVID has hit this very hard. We have not had any active educational programming at the Tiffin site since March of this year. We've laid off the lion's share of our staff. We have no educational staff working right now. We risk the chance that these people will be removed from our future. They have to have a sustainable income. We haven't been able to participate in the Canadian Income Support System, the CEWS program. TRCA right now is looking into the opportunity for CAs, and they've just received notification from Revenue Canada that we may be able to get this funding, which would provide 75% for lost incomes, regardless of amount from COVID. So that's going to impact how we move forward and how we implement these strategies going forward. And have the next slide, please. Here we want to enhance knowledge to support decision-making for the improvement and maintenance of watershed health. Our goal here is to improve the scientific understanding of environmental issues within the watershed. Next slide, please. We've collected in the last 60 years a tremendous amount of data in our environmental work through the fish wildlife biology, through water treatment, through wells, through sewage systems. This collection of data is overwhelming, and we need to now delve into how we can manage that data and best use that data to provide realistic, logical information to our municipal partners. We want to leverage that scientific knowledge and monitoring capabilities to advance our watershed-based resource management and allow us to make better decisions and allow us to make restorative initiatives within our watershed to improve the situation. We want to evaluate the watershed as stimulative capacity related to phosphorus and water quality treatment capacity provided in wetlands and streams. If I look to our neighbor to the east, Lake Simcoe, and through the Lake Simcoe Act, has really tuned into phosphorus management and cumulative phosphorus management throughout the water system. I think working under the guise of the federal government's stipulations, it may be an opportunity for conservation authorities and municipalities to garner a source of revenue to move forward and maybe prevent and manage this collective problem that we're going to face in the future. As more development comes and more people come and more water treatment plants come, we risk those damages to our streams and to our wetlands. We want to develop an information management system that supports and improves the scientific understanding within our watershed to better communicate our science information to stakeholders. You know, you can pick up the phone and you can call one of our staff and you'll find out that they're remarkably knowledgeable individuals. And there's just a wealth of information that we have, but we need to develop strategies and techniques to get at that information so that we can share it with you. If I can go to the next slide, please. And maybe if I could ask Chair White to step in on this. If you can see this slide, Chair White, if you could speak to it, please. You need your volume, I think. Is your volume on, Keith?
It should be. Is it on?
There you go. You were there.
Oh, am I there now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. It's just a little bit delayed there. Sorry. I did, before you came on there, Doug, I did go back and download Chrome on my new computer and fire it all back up again. So I think the video is good too. So thanks for that. So yeah, I think that, you know, Fred and I have been on the NVCA for quite a number of years. Fred much longer than myself, but I guess I'm coming up to 10 years, I think, and we've both seen a lot of change and a lot of funding changes from the provincial government from the mid-90s, and then again earlier in 2019, the provincial funding was cut by 50% as well. So there's been a lot of pressure on things like education programs, even utilizing some of our facilities to rent out for weddings and anniversaries and things like that. So we're always looking at new forms of revenue for the organization. And I think that the educational aspect that Doug touched on is incredibly successful, both from an educational but also from a revenue stream from both of the school boards within Simcoe County as well too, and the number of students that come through the facilities that we have. One of the things back in 2014, 2015 that Fred and I were involved in was an organizational review of the NVCA. And at that time, one of the big ones that took unanimous approval of all 18 municipalities was to reduce the board of directors from 26 individuals down to 18. That was a way to create a more effective, I think, while still organization, while still having good representation across the full watershed in that regard. And I think, you know, where we're at right now from a governance perspective as well too is we have quite a number of new members, and Ralph is a very good positive contributing member from your municipality. So we've been having a lot of internal education sessions as part of our meetings to bring as many of our representatives up to the technical aspect of what the NVCA and what conservation authorities do. And then most recently, obviously, is the provincial review through MEPC, stakeholder engagement, which was very significant. And so now, probably since mid-March and COVID coming along, we still are anxiously awaiting for any new regulations that'll come down from Ministry of Natural Resources and from MEPC. These are the things that will sort of show us, I guess, whether there's any significant change to the regulated responsibilities that we have to municipalities, to landowners within the watershed. So I think there'll be a lot of work that will happen, hopefully through the fall and into the winter, for conservation authorities across Ontario to adapt to whatever those changes may be. And I think that, you know, we're coming up to budget time for both the Conservation Authority and also our 18 municipalities. I think we're quite proud of our staff that has kept the board directed increase to be just slightly over 1% this year, considering a lot of the other pressures that we have. So through Ralph, if there are, through the budget process, any questions, concerns, input for us, we have a significant 45-day commenting period once the board sort of approves the budget to then be forwarded to each of the municipalities. Certainly through Ralph, let us know of any questions, whether it's to do with programming, whether it's to do with funding, or whether it's to do with new thoughts and ideas on how we might implement our strategic plan through, as Doug mentioned, our annual business plan. So the annual business plans are the things that actually get funded and are more of the operations that occur from year to year. So I think that's a little bit where we're at from a board perspective. We're a governance board, so we approve policies, guidelines, processes, strategic plans, and budgets, and then we hold our staffing accountable on a year-to-year basis to follow through as such. So I don't know if there's any general questions for Doug and I at this point.
Okay, thank you. Fred Nix?
Ralph, did you want to go first? Okay, I'm okay.
You told me I was going to go first for a change, Brett.
It's the mayor who makes these decisions, Ralph. It's not me.
Go ahead. She recognized you.
Doug and Keith, I want to ask, I guess it's a process question. I think your plan is great, okay? I have no problems with it. So don't take my question in a negative sense. I read it, and what I'm worried about is when I read some of the priorities, I read things like education, rehabilitation, recreation, and that. And I keep going back to section 21.11 of the Amended Conservation Authorities Act, and we're all eagerly awaiting the regulations that come down under that. But you're putting as priorities a whole bunch of things which may turn out not to be your core mandate. We don't know that yet because we don't know what the regulations are. So I don't know if I think maybe the plan is premature. That's not my question. My question is this: if some of these things don't come out to be part of your core mandate, my understanding is you're going to have to negotiate with each of the 18 municipalities as to whether or not they want you to provide these services. And where are you in that process? Have you started? Just before I finish the question, you know, we deal with 3 conservation authorities down here. So we already have one of them that said, we're going to start to negotiate with you on what services you want from us. Have you put any thought to that? Are you starting that process, or do you have any insights as to what these regulations are going to look like?
Well, thank you very much for that question, Fred. And I can't believe that you asked a question. I'm just gobsmacked that you actually asked a question, you know, so there we go. This is the initiation of the process, the strategic plan, where we've gone out and we've identified these, and we've made this information available to you yourself and other councillors to see. These are the priority items that we see as our plan, right? So when legislation drops, we have to and must react to that legislation. So this is the initial piece on that. And yes, we're constantly having conversations on how, if this is not funded, are we going to continue with this programming? If this is funded, how are we going to communicate that to our municipal members? So we're having those conversations at management level with the supervisors that run each program, and collectively with our senior management team made up of our lands, our corporate services, myself, and our watershed services that involves engineering and planning. So yeah, those are buttons that are ready to be pushed. But you know, we had this debate when we were approving this document. It's like, well, why should we even be doing a strategic plan when we don't know what our core business might or may not be? So I think, you know, we've used the terms moonshots. That's what a strategic plan is. It shows, it lays down a blueprint for where do we want to go as an organization in the future. And if we have to change, we have to change. But this is the initiation of getting out to people. This has been out on our website, and we've encouraged our board members to talk to their collective groups about it. Your group asked us to come down and speak to these issues. So we'll take that feedback that you provide for us. Are we at the level of TRCA where we've come in and said, hey, what do you want to do? Not quite there yet. We don't have the size of the beast that John McKenzie's team can provide when they can go out and do all these things. We're kind of a one-horse show here when we get out to get to municipal councils. So I hope that gives you some indication of where we are.
Okay.
Yes,
Keith?
it does, and thank you, but I still worry about if education isn't part of your core mandate. What if 9 of the municipalities say they want education services and nine say they don't? What do you do then?
Well, one of the things that we've done right there is if we want to run an educational program and it costs $100,000 and 50% of the people want to fund it, we go to the 50% of the people and fund it and say, instead of paying an equal share of 10, you're going to pay double that. Like that's one way you do it. And you'd go to the constituent and say, these are the actual costs if we want to run the program, and these are the communities that want to have that program. Would you like to share that cost equally across your watersheds, or would we do it like the levy, where each portion of your levy accrement works? It would be a calculable cost, I think, Fred. But that's one of the conversations that would have to happen, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Keith?
Thank you very much, Mayor Ryan. Yeah, I think the board struggled with this at the last board meeting prior to approving the strategic plan. It is something that Conservation Ontario has been working with all of their member conservation authorities. It is anticipated that there could be up to a 2-year transitional period that the government would recommend and suggest, depending on how significant the regulations may be. And I think depending on how significantly the act may or may not be changed as well, because at the present time, as you know, well, since 1960, Fred, you know, if the board approves a budget or if the board of directors approve programming, there is the responsibility, once the budget and the levy is approved, that there's a responsibility by all 18 municipalities to fund it. So if those are programs that the board of directors, through its governance model, approves, then the levy becomes a responsibility by impact assessment, unless that gets changed. You know, if that gets changed in some significant way, then I think, you know, all 36 conservation authorities in Ontario are going to be scrambling as to how do they divvy up the pie. How do they decide on the programs that is watershed based as opposed to, you know, county or municipality based? And, you know, I think, again, I think really what it comes down to is how significantly the act and the regulations may or may not be changed. And I think really that's the crux of the matter, that what do we plan for? You know, if we don't sort of go on a little bit of business as usual, really, until we find out exactly what those regulations are going to say, and if there's some form of possibly a 2-year transitional period to work it through. Because if it is significant, it's going to take a period of time. And it's going to take time working with councils, with municipalities. So really our thought was to start too soon on that may just be wasting some time in that regard. So that's a little bit of a view, I guess, from the board perspective, if that's helpful.
Okay, thanks, Keith.
Ralph?
I just want to say thank you, Doug and Keith, for coming here virtually, and presenting to us. This is the type of presentation which will allow understanding and perhaps convince member municipalities to support some of the things which may or may not be in a core, such as education. I think education is a hugely important thing. I think that's where it's at. And education of young people is the place to start, not the old fogies like Fred. I mean, I should say myself. And but I do have to give credit to Fred, because he brought an education program which the council and town supported, and we tried to put this into place, and it just didn't fly for various reasons. But we tried to extend that out to here. I have just one question, and before I mention that, I'd like to say, you know, Doug and Keith, when I joined the Conservation Authority, I didn't know what everything it did, and I'm just amazed at the breadth of activities that are dedicated to improving the watershed and the natural heritage area, and how well it ties in with business, the economy, and the natural environment. One of the things I didn't realize we did was land acquisition, and Doug or Keith, I was wondering if you could explain what the policy is, what's guiding land acquisition in this particular authority.
Certainly I could. We've been, and I'm going to use the word blessed again, we have been blessed with acquiring land in the past 60 years and never having to pay for it. When development windows open and close, there's usually pieces of the pie that are left over outside of development that may be within a regulated area or may fall within the watershed buffer, may not be developable in the eyes of the proponent. And they wait, maybe first come, first serve. They may come back to the municipality and say, would you like this land? And you look at it and say, well, can we build anything on it? No. Can we sell it for somebody to build anything on it? No, we can't. But it may tie to a wetland buffer that may increase and develop improved qualities for that wetland issue or for that hazard area. It may support slough or slope off the back of development. It may improve that or enhance that land base's ability to support the development. So quite often developers just say, would you like this land? And we take it on. In many cases, we can move that into the MTIF program, or we can go into a managed program where we get a tax relief from the municipality on that. Some of these pieces of land we can directly move into managed forest plans that we can work with and again, not have to have the tax-based burden that we have. We pay a significant dollar value in taxes for our land. Currently, we manage about 13,000 acres within the Simcoe County, Dufferin, and Grey counties right now. Our biggest pieces of the pie are obviously like in the Tiffin location, where we try to multi-use the property and generate revenue from it as well and provide our office staffs there. We have yet to buy land. Now, what we've done when we've created our new policy that we just had approved on the board, our updated policy that we just had approved by the board, is the federal government has identified, along with the Ontario government, that 17% of land base within the Conservation Authority, 17% of their total land base, their land area that they manage, should be held in trust for conservation purposes. So we're looking at opportunities that we may be able, if we can fundraise and raise money to buy this land, that's how we do it. If we can have a homeowner, like we just had a block of land, 104 acres up north of us in Oro-Medonte, a wonderful sugar maple bush that was logged for veneer timber for 60 years. And they wanted to see that continue. So they gave that land to the NVCA, and we're working in partnership with Simcoe County to see that that land will continue to be forested for generations. So that's one of the stewardship pieces that we play in it. We'd also look at opportunities where we might purchase land if we were able to raise the funds to do it, where we see a need within the watershed. If I go to the Innisfil Creek Basin, where there's been so many erratic changes to the stream base of Innisfil Creek, and there's many issues in flooding and floodwater and pollutants that come into that waterway, if we could buy some of the buffering land bases beside it, we may be able to provide quality improvements to the watershed. And this is the start of that watershed as it flows into the bottom of the Naughty and rolls north to the Georgian Bay. So that's how we look at land base. Fortunately, we're again blessed. We haven't had to buy land yet. If we did buy land, we would try to raise the funds to do that in an active fundraising event, or we rely on just well-intended constituents to give us the land through donation. I hope that answers your question, Ralph.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's any, oh, yes, John?
I just wanted to make an observation that you've indicated a $100,000 shortfall as a result of COVID. So I'm assuming that that is a loss of revenue. But on the other side of the ledger, you've realized some savings. I think it's very important to have a balance sheet, because when the province comes out with its regulations and its definition of what a core activity is, I'm fearful that they will be so narrow in their interpretation of core activities that it will further exacerbate your revenue flow. And I think it's important to go back to them and say, this is how our revenue flow has been affected by COVID. Just an observation for when you're preparing your budget.
Could I speak to that, Councillor Creelman? Is that all right? how can you say COVID is an opportunity? But when you face this calamity and you have these things and they're right in your face and you can see them, we can identify revenue losses. We can identify operational costs that were cut. We can identify the costs that we had to shed for capital. So that's black and white. What we're doing through this process tonight is also part of the picture. We're trying to demonstrate that a watershed isn't made up of 4 core activities. A watershed management system is made up of an integrated system that combines multiple activities for the delivery of these main activities. And we're trying to paint the picture to the government that some of these main activities may not be able to occur if we don't have those tertiary activities to support them, and being education. What would Simcoe County be if conservation authorities didn't plant trees? Since I've been here, we've planted 120 to 120 or to 250,000 trees in a year, in 1 year's production. We're one conservation authority. And again, I say, you pick up a paper. You can't find a newspaper or magazine article or an online story that doesn't talk about the benefits of tree planting. So I think we have to make those stories, and we have to do it through storytelling and getting the ear of politicians. And like-minded supporters from municipalities. You know, you guys are tremendous servants of community. If you feel this way, I encourage you to write members of parliament and support conservation authorities. I've heard tonight that our work's important and that we do a diverse amount of work. And I think we are a really good bang for the buck. And I think if you take the time as members to come, like Fred and Ralph have had the opportunity, and Keith, to participate with this staff. I'm not saying me, I'm saying the staff that I'm just tickled to work with every day. They are so dedicated. They're not here for the money. They're here to deliver a quality product to the people that live here, because they live in this watershed and they love this watershed. Just like I know you love your communities and you want to work to support them. That's the support we need. And it's been a pleasure to speak with you tonight. And if you have any questions, my coordinates are on this PDF that you have in front of you. And on behalf of Mayor White and myself, I'd just like to say thank you so much for this opportunity. We're really happy to come here and speak with you. And anytime you want to have us, we'd be happy to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for informing us of what you've been doing to date. And we look forward to all sorts of good news coming out of this. So thank you for taking the time to update us.
And if you want to put another 0 on our 1% budget request and give us 10%, yeah, we'd be all over that too. So just throwing that out there for you.
Yeah, always considered.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, Doug. Bye, Keith.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Have a great evening.
You too. Okay, so now we're moving on to unfinished business and deferred items. So the first item is the list of unfinished and deferred council business. Is there anything on the listing that you'd like updated, added, changed, deleted? John?
Just wondering if we can have a target date for the delivery of a customer service charter. Given the fact that there's a number of examples out there, I don't think it would be too difficult to cobble something together for the next meeting or the meeting after that.
Okay, Mark?
I have a draft circulating amongst the department heads, Deputy Mayor Creelman. So if I get comments back, it's going to be hard to get them back this week with both Les and David away and Mike away. So it shouldn't, it would definitely be at the following meeting, if not the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, Fred? Give Mike?
Muted, Fred.
Haven't we dealt with the second item on the list?
The legal and engineering services provider review?
Well, that was covered by the procurement policy that we passed at our last meeting.
Mark, did you have any comment to that?
I don't think we got any firm direction on whether we were doing the RFPs, but I thought Deputy Mayor Creelman was bringing something back, but
Yeah, I thought we passed a policy that said, I don't know the timing, but
the procurement bylaw says we will do it. I think there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting on it, and that something was going to be brought back. That was my understanding.
Okay, John?
I didn't think I had to bring back a specific motion so much as remind everybody that the sense of council appeared to be that we should be doing engineering and legal and opening the door for the water at Fred's request. So originally I had a deadline, which I'm prepared to admit is too ambitious now. But I'm really happy to bring back a very, very firm motion for the next meeting, but I was hoping I didn't have to.
Would that be helpful to have something in motion form, Mark, for direction?
Well, that would just be, that was my misunderstanding. I could certainly go down the road of starting up RFPs for legal and engineering, if that's council's wish.
Okay. Could I have comments from other members of council? Are you prepared to have Mark go ahead and start putting those forward?
yeah, but I just would say at staff, I mean, I would hate to give them a deadline. I think given all that's on their desk right now, they know the policy. Whenever they can get around to it, yeah, do it.
Okay, and Sharon's nodding too. Ralph?
No, I'm in favor. I agree with Fred. Let's not keep Mark here 7 days a week, but let's move on. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Sharon?
Could somebody remind me of what the Russell delegation on fireworks was? I can't remember a thing about it, so it's sitting there and I've been embarrassed to ask, so I'm asking now.
That was a request for a fireworks bylaw. I believe
From
it
an
came from
individual.
the area.
In the Fieldstone subdivision, there was concerns about no regulations on fireworks being set off. And so Mark was working through it, but it is problematic in terms of where it will apply and how it can be enforced. Fred?
And I just would remind you that maybe, I don't know if this was part of it, but our previous fire chief at Shelton had actually suggested that we look at our fireball. We do not include anything about fireworks. And I can't remember all of that, Mark, and I don't know if I gave you that information, but Brad had suggested that all of our 5 municipalities incorporate something about fireworks in their bylaws. There wasn't an urgency on it, but we should do it.
So that clarifies it for you, Sharon?
Sure. Also, I should mention that there were 5 days of fireworks going off around here, around Starview, the Starview area. So it might be a good idea to have something out there that lets people know that this perhaps is not the best idea.
Okay. So Mark, you're working on that.
Yes, we can bring that forward if that's council's wish. It's really prioritizing now, so.
Yeah, no, I know. But just in terms of, it's something that we should look at and discuss further, see what it is that we can do and where it should, if we are going to do something, where it will show up. John?
I'd attribute a low priority to this because fireworks season has come and gone.
Okay, but I think that was understood, but it was more in terms of that it was going to stay on the list. Was there anything else that we wanted to add, change, delete? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the second item, virtual and in-person blended council meetings. So there's a report here from Andrew regarding what we can accommodate in terms of technology. Andrew, did you have any comments on your report, or does Fred Simpson want to say anything further on it?
I didn't have any further comments. I think that it's pretty straightforward, and we talked a bit about what would be involved last time.
Okay. All right, and so we do have a motion to consider. Councillor Nix?
I just wondered if the 9,000 plus 2,000 or whatever, does it fit within our budget?
Where is the money being proposed to come from?
We'd be proposing that this would come from the funding that was provided by the province a couple years back on advancing the municipality infrastructure.
Okay. Okay, Ralph?
Just want to be sure that I understand what this is accomplishing. Andrew, please correct me if I haven't got it right, but presently we can have participants that are non-council members because we're using this particular program right now. But what this would do is allow us to have resident participant when we are in the council room. Is that the change?
Yes, and along with that, it allows for some members of council to be present physically and one or two others to attend virtually and participate as though you're all in the same room together.
Well, got it. Thank you.
Okay. John?
It would be nice if this price also included an extra camera angle to capture the presenters table. I know that's been it's been interesting to watch the LPAC meeting and the disembodied voices, you know, but for the cost of an extra camera, surely to goodness the provider could throw something in. I
can definitely go back and see how much it would cost to add an additional camera into the mix. It likely wouldn't be as simple to add in an extra one because there would need to be an additional HDMI feed added to the whole mix. So it might be quite an upgrade to our existing system.
But don't we have a switching panel now, and it would just be a question of having another option on that switching panel, or even look at voice activation?
The current system is actually full for the different options that we can select between, so we would need an upgrade to that console as well.
One of the things we've tried to
throw it out there. It's not that difficult because you know, we do switch alternately between council and the staff table, but I just think we need another, eventually at least, another camera angle to the presenters table.
Fred?
We can cost that out. One of the things we've been trying to avoid is, as Andrew pointed out, the control panel, the control box at the clerk's desk is maxed out. And it'll be an expensive proposition to replace. So that's been one of our criteria to try to avoid having to replace that. But we will go back to the vendor and ask if a additional feed, as you're describing, can be added. But it may require replacing that control panel, which will drive the cost up substantially.
I don't want to do that, but I think for the cost of the camera, those cameras have come down dramatically in cost. I'm just asking whether or not it's something that we could explore, but if it's too expensive, I think we just move on.
Right, and we will follow up, because you're right, the cameras are not the expense. It's the ancillary equipment.
Okay, so we have a motion in front of us that council, the town of Mono, accept the quote price of $9,274 plus HST from Michael Enterprise Audio and Visual for the supply and installation of equipment to permit virtual meetings to be held and broadcast in council chambers, and that council approves the expenditure of a further $2,150 plus HST for ancillary equipment. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin, seconded by Manklow. Any further discussion on the motion? Is there anyone that's not in favor? So that it's unanimous that carried. Okay, so now we are moving on. Thank you, Andrew, for that. Now we're moving on to new business, section 5, site plan agreement minor amendment for Orangeville Toyota. And so we have the report from Fred Simpson. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Fred, to that report?
No. We looked into the easiest way to accomplish this for the landowner based on our current signed bylaw. And this turned out to be the most practical means of doing it, as opposed to going through an actual application for a signed permit, was to seek an amendment to the site plan agreement. So that's why this has been presented to you, to make that happen, to expedite this for the landowner.
Okay, thank you. Any questions regarding this? Seeing none, I have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw authorizing the town of Mono to make a minor amendment to the site plan control agreement with Lamco Inc., Orangeville Toyota, substantially in the form as attached as Schedule A to the bylaw, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk for the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have someone to move? Councillor Nix. Seconder? Anybody? Councillor Mantelo? If there's no further discussion, I'll ask if anyone is opposed. Seeing none, that motion carries. Okay, item 2, fence bylaw. It's the third reading. Any questions of Fred Simpson's report? Seeing none, then we have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw for the regulating and governing of fences in the town of Mono, that it be signed by the mayor and clerk for the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Nix. And any discussion? Deputy Mayor, no? Okay. So anybody opposed to the motion? Seeing none, that carries. Item 3, Deputy Mayor's motion regarding the tow truck licensing bylaw. And so if there's no questions regarding it, I will read the motion. Whereas the council for the town of Mono support the development of a uniform tow truck licensing bylaw throughout the county of Dufferin that takes into consideration any recommendations of the provincial task force established to look at improving safety, consumer protections, and industry standards of the towing industry. And whereas the town of Orangeville has established business licensing and enforcement program, now therefore the town of Mono hereby requests the town of Orangeville to work with the Dufferin County municipalities in the development of a uniform tow truck licensing bylaw and to oversee the administration and enforcement of the bylaw across the county upon its adoption. Could I have a mover? Deputy Mayor, you moving or did you want to speak to it? Okay, I need a seconder. Ralph? Okay. Now, John, did you want to speak to the motion?
This is the motion that is being circulated to all local tier municipalities, and I believe we have indication that Melanchthon has already passed identical wording or something very close to identical wording. And our hope is that we're all on the same page on this and we can move forward.
Right. Okay. So we have a mover and seconder. So if there's no further discussion, we call for anyone who is opposed to this motion. And seeing none, that is carried. And item 4, town hall meeting. We have a report from Mr. Simpson regarding the town hall meeting and options. And Fred, did you have anything further you wanted to add?
Again, council had requested that we take a look into whether it was feasible to still hold a town hall meeting this fall. So as I pointed out into the report, we could hold one as a physical traditional town hall. Council chambers, probably not very practical due to size, but our other facilities are large enough that they could accommodate the current maximum of 50 people. Keeping in mind on a couple of occasions, we've had more than that want to come out. But of course, it wouldn't be able to be streamed live, not necessarily essential, but nice to be able to do thing. And we would need, to rent a sound system. Mono Center has been upgraded, so its acoustics should be much better than the last time we ran one there. But when all said and done, I would recommend that we do it as a virtual meeting, as these meetings have, for the most part, been fairly successful.
Okay. So, and whether or not we feel that it's, well, basically with the new equipment being put in, do we have to wait until that install is completed in order to try this out?
No, we could run a pure virtual meeting at any time.
Okay.
So for the proposed date in October, I don't anticipate that we'll have the upgrade to council chambers done in time for that town hall to make it a blended meeting, in person combined with the ability to participate electronically.
Okay.
And that's mainly because the vendor is, like many contractors these days, is running weeks to get to a project.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do council members feel about doing a town hall meeting in October or November, and understanding that what we originally had talked about was a plastic bag bylaw and a presentation on solid waste management? John?
I'm in favor of doing a 100% virtual meeting, either in late October, early November. I think we have to revisit the topics, because the plastic bag bylaw issue has gone sideways due to COVID, and the use of, frankly, the use of plastic bags everywhere. And solid waste is still, I think, an interesting possibility, but there may be other ones. But I think if we can agree in principle tonight to do it, we can work out the topics over the next few weeks.
Okay. Sharon, how do you feel about this?
Sorry, I wasn't expecting you. I think that early November would be a fine time to do it. I also agree that the plastic bag thing is, we can't even talk about that right now. And yeah, I think we need to find something else. And maybe by putting it to November, we will come up with some fabulous topics to bring forward.
And Fred Nix?
Sure, I'm okay with a virtual meeting in the time slot suggested. I agree there probably isn't much use in talking about our plastic bags, but we do have a bylaw coming into effect on January 1st, 2021.
And Ralph?
Yes, I think actually a virtual meeting could go over very well given the present situation. November is good. I'd like to revisit the topics as well. Fred, are you suggesting that perhaps this bylaw should not go into effect next in 2 months' time? Is that the
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I think it should come into effect. I agree, it might not be as effective as we originally anticipated, but you know, our bylaws are complaint driven. I rather suspect not much will happen when it comes into effect. But I think what we mainly are trying to do is set an example, not just for other municipalities, but because that can create a real hodgepodge. I personally think what we're doing is sending a message to the federal government about their promise to introduce a ban, which I understand why they've delayed, but this might just be a gentle reminder.
Okay, so instead of trying to decide topics tonight, we are all in agreement that we will hold a virtual town hall meeting, a date to be determined in November. And in 2 weeks when we meet again, we could each bring a topic or two, and then we can make a decision on what it is, because we have to have, especially on something like solid waste, we would like to have somebody, I would think, from the waste services in the county to present their current status and what their long-term goals are, so as an example. So with that in mind, we will move on. Ontario Highway Traffic Act regulation of off-road vehicles. And Fred Simpson's provided us with that. And so it basically, the recommendation that once the changes are brought into place, because we currently would have to pass a bylaw to allow them to use our roads. Is that correct, Mr. Simpson?
Yeah, the bottom line is we don't have to do anything, or council doesn't have to do anything to maintain the ban on ATVs and other off-road vehicles in the town of Mono.
Okay. So everybody's on clear understanding on that. So item 6 is the reopening of our facilities. We have an update from Kim Heaton. And I know that Councillor Manklow had a question regarding the data that was provided by Kim. So Kim, did you want to present anything further?
Just a clarification, Councillor Manklow and I have spoken about this afternoon, and I think it's worth clarifying that the data in my memo pertains as a cumulative data that extends from the beginning of COVID through to the end of August, as far as what the rate of infections have been in the municipalities stated. The good news on that is, even though the cumulative data states that Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph was higher than the provincial average, we have come a long way in the last couple of months, being July and August, in that the cases for those 2 months are down substantially, which is really important as far as rate of infection. But the point of the memo, my report, is whether or not council wants to pursue reopening of the facilities with the looming talk of whether or not there is going to be a second wave of COVID. And it seems that that's the way the experts, what they seem to be predicting. So that's the point of the report, is whether or not we want to reopen. Council asked me what our neighboring municipalities are doing. I did look in, I researched that, and at this point, our neighboring municipalities, no one is back into the actual rental business. When I say rentals, I'm referring to for things like receptions, weddings, meetings, family reunions, birthday parties. They're not into that. They are trying to open up as far as ice rentals and pools, but actual rentals for the type of events that I just mentioned, they're not happening at the moment.
Okay. Questions of Kim? Okay, John?
I agree with the direction of the report. I will be making comment on the Mono Internet Center later on in the meeting.
Okay. So thank you for that report, Ben. So unless council wants to entertain anything further, we will carry on. Councillor Mantlo?
Thank you. I agree with holding things as they are now. I don't think that we should be opening anything up. It's just a bit too unclear what's going to happen with the opening of schools, and it's been a little bounced up with even before the opening of schools in terms of case numbers. And my comments were that we should be making our decisions based on current levels rather than what happened in April. And Kim and I had a good discussion about that, and I think that we're on the same wavelength. So within the website for the health unit, and you look up under public, you look up the incidents, you can look up trends, and you look up trends, and that tells you what's happening day to day. And so the trend has been really very good. We've had about 2 cases per week for the last 2 months, which is 2 new cases, that is, which is very good. It's about 1/3 the rate of Toronto's, as an example, and I'm not sure about Peel. I suspect it's similar.
Okay. All right, thank you. So on then to item 7, the water tower lease agreement. So Mark did circulate that information to us by email. And Mark, did you want to add anything further?
Just to add to the previous item, since the council meeting started tonight, I did get a notification on my phone. There was over 500 new cases in BC this weekend. So the BC government has actually shut down all banquet halls in BC. So that's just occurred since this council meeting started, just in addition to what Kim had put forward. So as far as the lease agreement goes, it's been put forward as a general lease agreement. I've been contacted by another provider. I know Deputy Mayor Creelman has a couple of companies that he's looking at. So we'd like to get this agreement approved once so that it can be used with other providers that we can bring forward just with the interest and have a set rate. So I'm proposing a lease amount of $2,500 a year. If we only end up with 1, that's probably not going to cover all our costs. If we end up with 2, it will more than cover our costs. So the more we do have on, there is an opportunity there for additional monies. So.
Okay. Ralph?
Yes, I just like to have a little background onto your thoughts about the cost that we're charging, Mark. I understand that the Klondike tower, we get the 15 or 20,000 between the two users. In this situation, I think that we're very interested in supporting and encouraging some one or more people, one or more suppliers to install here. And is this a low rate on purpose, or is you consider this is to be what other municipalities might charge for an installation on their property?
I think we're probably about 1/10 of what the big players would be asked to fund. So I think it's kind of a balance between the costs that we've put into it to date, staff time and others, and the cost that staff will be putting into this down the road. So I think that's kind of the basis that I used is one, you're probably not going to cover your costs if you've got one user. Two, you'll probably cover your costs. Three, you know, if we get 3 or 4 users, then that's going to provide for you know, any long-term maintenance that we may have to do with the water tower and the users in there. One thing we don't know as of yet is the electrical connection, that will be required and separated between the two, as we think they should have to be metered for their individual use and billed back to them.
Okay, Ralph, is that answer your?
I think I think that we're all interested in stimulating internet improvements here, and that's the direction we should be going. We shouldn't be looking at this as a money-making opportunity. But John, you might like to weigh in on that.
John?
Yeah, it was certainly my intention that this be a cost recovery exercise, precisely to encourage providers onto the tower. The difference between the Klondike and our water tower is the Klondike site, it's a substantial footprint for a very large tower versus the footprint already existing and equipment being attached to it. The fees suggested look reasonable to me, but I think the annual fee is maybe something that we should revisit on an annual basis to see that it is either adequate or not so. And I agree that if there's any electrical costs, that they have to be billed in such a way that we recover those costs as well. I think it's a good compromise between trying to recoup our expenses versus trying to make money off the exercise. I just have a question for Mark. You indicated in an email to me that you had a verbal okay from the engineer. So I take it that there's nothing structural that needs to be done on the top of the water tower to ensure the safe installation of antennas.
And that's my understanding, John. I listened to a voicemail from Landmark. I believe Matt had actually spoken with them, but they said that there's we could accommodate up to 5 antennas without any structural changes.
Okay. And what I don't know and what we may not know is for each provider, is it one antenna or is it multiple antennas? One provider suggested to me that they might have 2 antennas. So I'm not sure on that, but I think if we can get a minimum of 3 providers up there, and we have, I think, 3 very keen ones and potentially a 4th, that's a really, really good thing from the standpoint of competition and customer choice.
Okay. No, just to let you know that I was contacted by a resident, well, I believe a resident, absolutely incensed that we would be considering this because of the health and safety issues of 5G networks and carcinogens, et cetera, and it does nothing to improve our way of life. And it was very interesting. I asked if I could share the concerns through email to the rest of council, and there was no uptake on that, but very abusive in terms of what the input from council, wanting, feeling that the public had not been notified or allowed to comment, et cetera. So I'm not really sure if anybody else has received any negative comments. Deputy Mayor?
I've heard reports of a single individual who is concerned about this, and what I'd say to council and anyone listening is that the equipment that is currently proposed is not pure 5G. It is something less than 5G. but probably more powerful than LT. I think it's LTE. And there is nothing stopping the current providers from putting 5G equipment on the existing towers. That is between them and Industry Canada. But this is not as I understand it, is not a pure 5G signal that would be beaming off the mono water tower. There's a lot of alarmist thinking out there about what 5G is doing, including causing COVID-19, by the way. And I think the jury's out as to whether or not it's creating a harmful environment. But this is far from 5G, as I've been told.
Okay. Well, that's just to let you know that I did receive a few emails from this individual, and suffice to say, wouldn't matter what was said back. It was just basically, I was an idiot, and so was the rest of council, and nobody knows what they're doing. So there you are. So with that, we do have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw authorizing the town of Mono to enter into a lease agreement with authorized service providers to install radio communication equipment on the town water tower substantially in the form as attached as Schedule A to the bylaw, and that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk of the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Martin and seconded by Creelman. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to this motion? Seeing none, then that's carried. Now, we are supposed to be getting our solicitor online for 8:30. So just double checking here with Mark. Do we know his availability?
Jeff's available now, so.
Okay. So what we should do then is move in camera, and then we'll come back and finish the rest of the agenda. So we have a motion that council moves into a closed meeting pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended at 8:30.
Jeff's available now, so.
Okay. So what we should do is move in camera, and then we'll come back and finish the rest of the agenda. So we have a motion that council moves into a closed meeting pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended at 8:30.
Jeff's available now, so.
Okay. So what we do is move in camera, and then we'll come back and finish the rest of the agenda. So we have a motion that council moves into a closed meeting pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended at 8:30.
Jeff's available now.
Okay. So what we do is Andrew or Fred Simpson.
We seem to be in a time loop here.
Yes, I feel like I'm in a time warp. Okay. Because we do have to have this motion passed in before we go in camera, so.
We do, and I don't know if it was completely clear, and if you want to go through that a second time or not. Mark, were you able to discern at your end? Because at my end, that was completely garbled.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Pardon me, Andrew?
Okay, so what would you like me to do? Do you want me to start from the beginning of the motion? Okay.
I think so. I think that would be best.
Okay, so the council moves into a closed meeting pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended at 8:34 p.m. for one matter of litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals, bylaw enforcement. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Nix and seconded by Magdalo. And is anybody opposed? Seeing none, we are now in closed session. So 9:09 p.m. With, because it says here with no report, so, but it's with direction to the CAO. Fred, Mark?
Yes, and that council accept the advice from the town solicitor and directs that the town administration and the town solicitor proceed to prepare a memo detailing the requirements needed to fulfill the order.
Okay, but that's what we're gonna say in open session, right? So all I want to do is rise now and report?
Yeah, that is the resolution that will be passed in open session.
Correct. So the one I want to do now is that we rise from in-camera session at 9:09 p.m. and report.
Correct.
Okay, so can I have a mover? Nix, and seconded by Martin. And nobody is opposed, so that carries. And then we get Andrew to turn the system back on.
Well, the both should be done. It all should be done as one resolution in open council.
Okay, so so there's the direction to the CAO. Fred, could you please read that out again?
Okay, so the complete resolution that we rise from in-camera session at 9:09 p.m. and that council accept the advice from the town solicitor and directs that the town administration and the town solicitor proceed to prepare a memo detailing the actions required by the actions required to complete the terms of the work order.
Okay, could I have someone to move that? Moved by Martin and seconded by Nix. And no one is opposed, so that carries. Okay, now we're back to our agenda. So we have Schedule A, and we'll start with Sharon. Do you have anything that you wanted to bring forward?
I think it's number 6. Just a little more information about the landfill site, the leachate monitoring. I assume we're going to be on this and make sure that everything's done properly. That's too bad that we have to go back there again, but it's certainly something that needs to be done. Is there any more update? How long will this take? We just have to respond by the 16th of December? I don't understand that. Okay, Mark, can't we just do it?
Well, normally so I spoke with Gary Tomlinson at MECP before he forwarded this correspondence out. So he was also aware that Mike was on sick leave. So normally the ministry would give you an order like that and give you 30 days to reply. Gary was gracious enough to give us through to December 16th to reply. Burnsides have already reviewed the order or the draft order, and quite frankly, they don't think a lot of the requirements are valid anymore, given the fact that the landfill is more or less shut down to public waste, other than the tree chipping and waste that we bring in ourselves. And the fact that the shed, the Quonset hut, is not in use like it was when the facility was open, and it's also been raised above the ground to allow for air transfer, and we don't think the ministry is aware of that. So what we're planning to do is to meet with the ministry prior to December 16th and say, here's our position on these matters. What do you think? And put it in writing back to them. So we're certainly aware of our requirements as we're closing the landfill, and we'll definitely be doing whatever work the ministry thinks is required for the long-term protection of our residents and methane moving. So I think that's where we are right now. But yes, we do have until December 16th just to respond to the actions.
Okay.
None of it needs to be implemented until the monitoring year for 2023. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
Is there anything else, Sharon?
Nope, that's good. Thanks.
Okay. John, did you have anything on Schedule A? Your mic.
Sorry, I like the two internet motions. One from the town of Orangeville, which I think was a relay from Caledon, and the other one, they're essentially saying what we've all been saying for a great many years now. Apart from that, I have nothing else.
Okay. Fred, do you have anything?
Yeah, number 10 is the one that intrigues me, but Dave isn't here tonight. And all I want to know is, what does it mean for the town of Mono, these changes to the Places to Grow Act? And don't bother answering tonight. I'm sure when David comes back, he can tell us if there's something.
But yeah, okay. Ralph, do you have anything?
Just to repeat, it was mentioned by NVCA, but the ask is going to be for 1.5% increase this year from NVCA, and they're covering their shortfall, which is $100,000 from reserves. So the COVID related shortfall. John, you mentioned the internet motion from Orangeville, and I think that it would be a good idea for us to send a similar motion to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. That's my proposal.
Okay, how does the rest feel about sending something forward? John?
I'd be happy to, although it's Ralph's idea, if he would move a motion to support that motion, I'd be happy to second it.
Okay, so Ralph, you're going to move the motion to support that, and John is seconding.
Yes.
Okay. And so we are going to ask for a vote. Anybody opposed to us supporting that resolution? Seeing none, that's carried. And is there anything else, Ralph?
No, that's all, Your Honor.
Okay, so we have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. Could I have a mover? Fred, and seconded by Sharon. And anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. And so now we are on to reports of members of council and staff projects. So we'll start with staff. Kim, I see that you're still logged in. Is there anything that you had to update us on?
I just wanted to let council know that we closed off the Monarch Butterfly Contest there. I talked to you about it the last time on August 21st and announced the winners in time for August 22nd, which was Flight of the Monarch Day. And we gave out prize packages that were predominantly butterfly themed to the winners in each category. And I just wanted to give a big thank you to Andrew and Emma for all that they did in order to make our first virtual program such a success, because they were phenomenal in making that happen. We have an ongoing battle at one of our parks with a challenge to keep the picnic tables not in use. So if you hear anything that somebody says our picnic tables are in use, there's one park where we're being challenged. So anyways, we're trying to stay on top of that as best we can. Just been dealing with some trail maintenance issues over the past few weeks that we have been working on and have them under control. And other than that, been working with the contractors for the installation of the new fieldstone parquet, which is on schedule to begin on October 5th.
Okay. Any questions of Kim? Seeing none. Matt Donor, did you have anything that you'd like to update us on?
Yes, evening council. As Kara had sent an email last week with an update, Bridge 39 was opened last Friday, which is good. We don't have to worry about sending staff up regularly to maintain the signs and the barricades. So it's open, everything looks good. The slope's held up. I was out there this morning. Expecting Rosemont urbanization to commence likely this Thursday, weather permitting. And Blind Line and 15 Side Road is expected to start sometime next week. And we're still moving forward with some rock breaking down with the water main on Highway 9. So slow but steady.
Okay. Any questions of Matt? Thank you very much. And Fred Simpson, did you have anything you wanted to update?
I wanted to report that the Solicitor General has issued an order stating that municipalities do not have to comply with emergency management training for 2020. So we've been exempt from having to conduct that. We have received a request from a university student to change the hours and the availability of the Mono Internet Center as it doesn't align with that particular student's university classes, who also states that she has peers in the same position. I've asked Andrew to consider how and we may be able to change the hours. How would we work with the requirements of sanitization? And the possibility of having to prepare a fair access policy in order to facilitate various people using it, and if we should prepare one. So he's working on recommendations to that end.
Okay. Any questions of Fred? John?
Why don't we just go back to the way it was? I sent an email out and I didn't get a response to my suggestion, but you could install a $15 wireless doorbell that people could push. Staff could be on some kind of rotation to respond to it. Staff could be on some rotation to take up duties of sanitizing the room. And we could get back to normalcy. The proviso being that we don't obviously want to interfere with the bandwidth that the LPAC hearings are taking up. But I've been getting a lot of calls from a number of people with the same complaint that the 2 users a day prohibition that we currently have, or requirement that we have, is not good enough. And I think it's a deterrent for people who actually want to use it, to read on the internet that only 2 users a day in specific hours, which, by the way, you could even sit on days that LPAC is meeting if you simply use the time that they take for lunch and create opportunities there. I think there's absolutely no reason or no excuse why that facility cannot be reopened ASAP. We don't need a study. We should simply do it.
Do we have any idea, Fred, the hours of the university students' lectures, courses, what they are?
Yeah, she mentioned that her classes run from 10 a.m. until 12:30, and then again from 1 p.m. to 3:30. So one of the things we're looking at is how could we expand and divvy the time slots that might also accommodate that and allow perhaps back-to-back bookings. And again, that gets into the, will we at some point need to consider a fair access policy? Right now, we are getting it booked quite regularly by one person, pretty much daily. for commercial purposes is our understanding. And whether we want to recommend to council maybe a policy perhaps that favors post-secondary education over commercial, perhaps it doesn't, but some ideas at the very least that council could consider if it becomes an issue. But expanding the hours is what we are looking at considering, taking into all those points, Deputy Mayor Creelman, that you mentioned, sanitation and that such, making sure we can get the person into the building and out of the building, just addressing those before we change the booking availability, which may have to wait till the end of LPAT. Again, something to consider at the very least, whether implement this after LPAT.
Okay. Mark, you wanted to comment?
I think Deputy Mayor had his hand up first.
Okay, John?
I just wanted to add that there's been an inference that the use of the Internet Center was going to somehow conflict with the broadcast of LPAT. We don't know that for a certainty until we try it. It may not have any impact whatsoever, in which case there's no reason why it shouldn't be open. But my point is that it can, at the very minimum, it should be functioning around the hearing times. And the other thing is that you don't need to have somebody sitting at a desk at the front door of town hall. You can have a doorbell and somebody can respond to it. Again, let's not overthink this or make it some kind of policy that's going to take a couple of weeks to develop. Let's do it.
Okay, Mark?
I think that was in my report to council, Deputy Mayor Creelman. Quite frankly, we are running the MIC during the hearings, and it's being regularly booked, as Fred said, by one person, and that's it. We're not having an issue getting people in and out of the building for the MIC. We're having an issue, and we have someone at the door because of the volume of people that are coming in for the LPAT hearing. And that has also allowed us the convenience of having someone at the door to let people in. Once LPAT is finished, as I indicated in my report to council a couple of meetings ago, we'll certainly be opening the building up. We'll be restricting access to the basement and the washrooms downstairs, but the MIC will be open up and the public will be able to come in and attend town hall should they feel it necessary. So I'm quite comfortable that that's a solution that will occur as soon as the LPAT is out of the building. But as Fred said, there's going to be the need for probably a fair access policy because we're not going to be able to compete with we're going to have to make a decision on how we deal with the people or the person that's currently using the facility and the needs of the contact that Fred had recently with the university student. As for running it during lunch hours, the LPAT's been breaking for 30 minutes one day, an hour the next, at 1:30 at noon, at 2 o'clock. So that's an impossible target to hit.
Okay, so when is LPAT scheduled to end?
I don't have the notes in front of me. It was going to be part of my staff report, but until today, they've hit all of their deadlines, or they've hit all of their witnesses, and I think they were looking at mid-September. So that's probably the end of next week, the week after.
So it will be sooner than later.
Yeah, it's not going to go into October as originally scheduled.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like there's no conflict now. So why are we waiting for LPAC to pack up, as it were?
The conflict being, that's what I'm saying, we are booking now between 10 and noon and 2 and 4 every day.
Okay.
The facility's open and being booked. The The only caveat is we've got 2 separate times, so that allows us to go in and do cleaning in between while we have staff in the building to do the cleaning.
Then change the website wording, because the website wording suggests that only 2 people a day can use the facility between specific hours, and we're hearing that it's slightly different. Just open it up to the way it was before. That's all, and I'm not going to say any more about it.
Okay. Okay, Mark, did you have anything that you wanted to update us on?
Just that LPAT's been maintaining their schedule, which is a good thing, because that hopefully will get them out of the building sooner rather than later. And I also forward you the Bellissimo appeal regarding the facility up on Highway 89 and 3rd Line. I expect our submission will go out to LPAT today, and we'll copy that as part of the Schedule A on your next council agenda.
Okay, and do we have any idea with the LPAT hearings, how soon one would be scheduled?
I have no idea where they are right now in their schedule, Your Worship. I think they're probably quite a ways behind on older appeals that have not happened since COVID, since March. But I don't know what their scheduling is in terms of new appeals that have come in.
Okay.
Before this matter goes to LPAT, it will have to come back for council for direction.
Right.
To staff on and legal on how you wish to proceed.
Right. Okay. So, reports of council members. Ralph, did you have anything you wanted to report on?
Your Honor, we mentioned at the last meeting that we would have try for public input into the stream song project, and that's gone ahead with really excellent support from Andrew Downer and Jake, who elected to make a survey. And the survey is very easy to follow. So if you have some information, particularly some of you who have been around here for a long time, as long-time residents, have some knowledge about streams. So please have a look at it. We're going to try and close this off on the 15th of September, and then move the project along for some more definitive position. I've also contacted a number of people and directly and said, could you please look at this? Meeting with Bob Shirley tomorrow, I think tomorrow, and he has some input. So this project's moving along quite well. My other comment is actually a question, and Mark, I'm not sure what's happening in terms of the gradual opening up of the town offices. If you have a plan for that, and I've just missed it, or are we going to make it more open than it is as we go through the fall, or what are your recommendations?
Yes, and as I said in my report probably 2 weeks ago, I think the only reason we've kept it closed and by appointment only is because of the volume of people that are coming in for the LPAT hearing. And once the LPAT hearing is going, has ceased, and we don't have the volume of people, and we have control with people coming into the building and up to the front counter, we can certainly provide for more allowance for people to come into the building. Right now, LPAT is being screened at the front door, and they have very strict rules and procedures for when they're in the basement, and they've been abiding by that. They're coming in the front door, they're being screened, they're going back out the front door. They know the use of the washrooms downstairs are one person at a time, that sort of thing. So that's being controlled. When we do open the building up in the next couple of weeks, we will be blocking off the basement to the council chambers and to the washroom. So when people are coming in, they're coming directly up into the office and or the MIC.
And is it your intention that they would need an appointment, or can they enter this as they wish?
I think once we're past the LPAT, there wouldn't be a requirement for an appointment.
Right. So, and the next question, I'm not pushing for this for inquiry. Staff, I believe, are currently but half your staff are in at one time and half are working from home. Is that, what's the planning with respect to that?
I think until we get, for sure, we know where we are through this potential second wave, I'm not planning to change that. I think staff are actively working from home. I think you see that on a regular basis, that the volume of work that is coming through to council. And I'm not planning to change that until I see something different from a potential second wave, which I understand Nicola Mercer is predicting is October 2nd, that kind of time frame. So I don't think it's worth making a change before then.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Fred, you have nothing? John? John? Is your mic, there you go.
Just that I can't attend county council on Thursday, so I sent an email to yourself, your worship, as well as Sharon, indicating that Sharon can, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know that there's any protocol to this. I think she's our designated substitute.
Correct.
Can attend if she wishes.
Yeah. So Sharon, have you been in contact with anybody at the county office?
No, I haven't, but I could send an email and find out what's required.
Well, basically, they would be able to send you the agendas.
Yes.
And so it'd probably be Michelle Dunn that you'd like to contact.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's,
And I'll go back to county staff and confirm that I will not be there.
right.
Okay.
So it's 2 p.m. on Thursday. Okay.
Yep.
Is anything else, John?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Sharon, do you have anything?
I will be attending virtually the county council as an alternate. Thank
Okay. Thanks for confirming that. All right then. So we moving on to notices of motion. We have a motion by Councillor Nix.
Your worship.
Regarding... Yes.
Your worship, just before you do, sorry, I've forgotten my staff report. Just a very quick question. The October 13th council meeting is a night meeting. Does council wish to maintain going on a night day schedule as you previously did before COVID, or do you want to go back to your day meetings? I mean, the reason we're meeting the 2 night meetings in September was because of the LPAT situation. So
right.
We're trying to schedule things, so I just want to get some times.
And how does the member of council feel? Do you want to do the one evening meeting and the other one day like normal, or do you want to do them both day? Sharon?
Somebody say something.
Yeah.
I like the alternating, the way we were doing it when we did it live and in person. I think it gives a different opportunity for other people to be part of it as well, to be listening in and hearing what we have to say.
Okay. Fred, how do you feel?
I'm indifferent. I don't care.
Okay. Ralph, how do you feel?
I'm okay with going back to the original.
Okay. And John, you're fine with it?
Alternate.
Yeah. Okay. So
Thank you.
that's clarified. All right. So, Fred, your notice of motion. Did you want to speak to it, or are you just going to leave that?
You can read it. I don't have anything to say to it now.
Okay. Whereas the Bruce Trail Conservancy and other landowners on the first line are having a difficult time controlling trespassers, be it resolved that council instructs staff to prepare an amendment to the Town of Mono Parking Bylaw 2000-12 to make a no parking zone from on the south side of Canning Falls, Scotts Falls, the 10th side road north to the dead end, and on the north side of Canning Falls, Scotts Falls, from the dead end north for a distance of 1 kilometer.
Yeah, and I would just point out that I have scheduled a delegation to speak to that motion for the next council meeting.
Okay, so it will be prudent to have that available at that time.
Yes.
Okay. So is there any other business? Seeing, yes, John.
I'm just wondering if there's a reason we can't vote on Fred's motion tonight. I think it's perfectly reasonable, and it would give
He's got
me
a delegation coming the next
No.
meeting to
But
explain.
if we, yeah, I think it's self-explanatory, and I can also notify the Police Services Board of its passage when they meet later this month.
But the only thing, I appreciate that, John, and I guess we could vote on it tonight, but it would take the wind out of the sails of Don Sinclair and Andy, or the Bruce Trail person that's going to appear for the Bruce Trail. Let them do it. We'll vote on it in 2 weeks, okay?
Because our next meeting is on the 22nd. So when's your Police Service Board meeting, John?
I'll have to check that. Give me a moment.
I think it's the 16th, Deputy Mayor. I just saw that today.
I have discussed this idea.
It
It
is, and I'll mention it to the mayor.
Okay.
I've already discussed the idea with Nicole Randall. She knows about this.
Okay. So if there's nothing further, we'll sign off that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Mono in session VC11-2020 held on the 8th of September 2020, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Nix. Anybody opposed? That's carried. And we adjourn this meeting at 9:40 p.m. Mover? John, and seconded by Ralph. And no one's opposed. So that's great. Thanks very much, everybody. See you virtually in 2 weeks.